Assimilation Squared. Assimilation Squared? Assimilation Squared. Assimilation Squared is a crossover comic between Doctor Who and Babylon 5 or whatever. Written by Scott and David Tipton with assistance by Tony Lee and with art by J.K. Woodward, the 8-part series has the 11th Doctor, Amy and Rory join forces with the crew of the Enterprise D to face a deadly new alliance between the Cybermen and the Borg. In theory, this is the best idea since Bob Ross was included as a guest character on Mortal Kombat, but how does it work out in practice? The series kicks off with the Borg showing a characteristic lack of decorum by crashing the party on Delta 4 without so much as a hello, we're your new neighbours and we made you a nanite casserole. Things go from bad to worse when Starfleet officers realise the Borg have brought some new friends with a casserole of their very own. With impeccable timing, these new cybernetic BFFs beam into the command centre, making everyone's day just the best. The Prime Minister and a few lucky Starfleet officers escape the assault to a runabout, just as things get properly Danny Dyer for the people of Delta 4 below. Side note, I like this touch of the Cybermen using the Borg's adaptation technology. Its clever visual storytelling lets you know just how high the stakes are and sets the stage well for what's to come later. Meanwhile, thousands of years ago, Amy, Rory and the— Whoa! Jesus Christ! Why would you do that to me? Yeah, this Matt Smith has been standing in the corner of my room every night since I read this. Oh well, lightning can't strike twice, right? Anyway, we find the most dysfunctional family unit in time and space are hot on the trail of an alien criminal in ancient Egypt. Aliens in ancient Egypt? Can you imagine? I wanted to fit a Chariot of the Gods joke in here, but the best I could do is point out that there's a chariot and it's being driven by Rory, who, as we all know, is a god. Anyway, I like the use of Rory's Roman stuff in this issue. Speaking of Rory, there's this bit where he uses all the power leveling he put into his speech skill during his time as the last Centurion to get past a couple of guards. It's not necessarily important to the plot, but it's a really nice little piece of characterization. Elevensy's confrontation with the alien Vizier isn't particularly interesting, although it is pretty funny when he introduces himself with a big I'm the Doctor moment, accompanied by a panel that, yeah, that's just a Trace promo shot from Series 6, isn't it? Oh well, I'm sure lightning can't strike twice. So, it's either clearly Trace promo art or absolute nightmare fuel with no in-between, which wouldn't be as pronounced if it wasn't for the comic's glaring pacing and tonal issues. The contrast between the TARDIS team having a silly run around while billions of innocent people have their hopes, dreams and individuality stripped away by cold, unfeeling force is a bit jarring. I mean, the invasion of Delta 4 by the Cybermen of the Borg is such a strong opener that really allows this crossover to hit the ground running. So to have this whole first issue be taken up by a not particularly interested 11th Doctor historical feels a little bit like having a really good start in the 400 meters, then tripping over and shattering your pelvis. It very much feels like this was written for the trade paperback, and while that's cool, if the first issue doesn't offer a satisfying opener to experience, then why exactly should a consumer pay to get the good bits? The whole thing should be a series of good bits. This, kids, is what we call media literacy. Anyway, back to the media at hand, where our monster of the week is hoisted by their own petard using a green crystal that hadn't been set up in any way beforehand, a crystal that then proceeds to give the Doctor a wibbly-wobbly vision of the actual plot of this crossover, to which even the TARDIS decides she's had enough and sends them to what seems to be 1941 San Francisco. But as anyone who's ever seen an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation ever can quickly deduce, is actually Commander Riker's wank shed. And speak of the devil, there he is! Yeah, the cliffhanger of this comic isn't Team TARDIS and the TNG crew facing their first shared threat or coming to a misunderstanding that leads to a confrontation or even meeting for the first time. They just enter the same room, which is barely a step above all those classic Who cliffhangers that were just a close-up of Colin Baker's face. Overall, while this opening is very strong, the first issue drags its feet like it's someone who shot themselves in the foot while biting off more than they could chew. Getting a comic that opens with the promise of a crossover between the longest-running science fiction franchises of all time and then getting a promise that it'll happen in the next issue instead is like being promised a crossover between the longest-running science fiction franchises of all time and then getting a fucking mobile game. Subscribe to Something Blue Audio to get more important life lessons like this. And if you like this video, then why not check out this one about Doctor Who's aborted anniversary special. Bye!